like to call to order the October 5th, 2010 meeting of the Louisville Planning and Zoning Commission and announce that we do have a quorum present. Item 2 on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the September 21st, 2010 meeting. Do we have any questions, comments, corrections?
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion from James, second from Bill, to approve the meeting minutes of the September 21st, 2010 meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Meeting minutes are approved, and we have Jim joining us. Item 3 on the agenda is the public hearing consent agenda plats. Item 3A is the final plat of the GTM edition, Lot 1 through 5, Block A, Lots 1 through 5, Block A 29.84 acres. This is hard to say even. A 29.84 acres zoned light industrial located on the south side of Business State Highway 121 and east of Valley Ridge Boulevard.
Good evening, Commissioners. The plat before you does not have any zoning or general development ordinance requirements. It is part of the zone case later on this evening. The plat before you does not have any zoning variances or general development ordinance variances, and it is part of the zone change request that is before you later this evening. Staff would recommend approval.
Thank you, Mary. Do we have any questions for Mary on this consent agenda item? If not, at this time, I'll open up the public hearing on item 3A. Anyone wishing to speak in reference to item 3A can do so at this time. Don't believe we have anyone to speak on item 3A. Do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion from James.
Second.
Second from Alvin to close the public hearing on item 3A. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Public hearing is closed. Any other comments, or do I have a motion to approve item 3A?
Make a motion to approve item 3A as presented.
Motion from James, second from Jim, second from Bill to approve item 3A. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Item 3A passes. Item 4 is public hearing zoning. Item 4A is consideration of a zone change request from light industrial to warehouse, zoning on a 12.07 acre tract located on south side of Business State Highway 121, further identified as the eastern portion of the Thompson Addition, Lot 1, Block A, and Tract 29 of the VR Sutton Survey, Abstract 1153. The request is being made by Mitch Dudley Enterprises, Inc., the property owner. This is case number PZ 20100912. Sir, are you wishing to speak about this one, or?
Yes, I wasn't sure that this one what we just spoke about.
Okay, we will
Still say something about it?
on item 4A?
Yes.
Yes, Mary will speak about it, and then we'll open up a public hearing on item 4A.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. The zone change request before you this evening concerns a 12-acre parcel. Which is just on the south side of Business 121, just east of Valley Ridge Boulevard. The lot is a panhandle-shaped lot, so you can see that this portion here is the one that actually faces 121. The rest is kind of down, slopes down approximately 400 feet south of 121. It is part of, or was part of, a larger piece of property that was part of a golf driving range. This piece with the plat is now created into one lot. The owner currently has some boat and RV storage up here, has some boat and RV storage down here. Staff has been working with Mr. Dudley for the last couple of years, trying to go over some code issues. Staff has worked very diligently with Mr. Dudley in trying to work out some issues. Mr. Dudley has provided staff with deed restrictions. Those deed restrictions have been filed, which would limit his use of the property. The requested zoning is for warehouse zoning, which typically allows, an unlimited amount of outside storage. Mr. Dudley has requested or has provided deed restrictions, which would limit his outside storage to mainly the boat and RV business that he currently has. So this zoning would bring the property into compliance. It would limit the outside storage to only 10% of the lot, which typically goes with light industrial zoning. So this 10% limitation has been deed restricted for the purposes of processing and/or storage of mulch, wood chips, firewood, stone, dirt, and the storage and operation of equipment related to such uses for which Mr. Dudley's other businesses are. Because he owns several properties along here that you can see in that first plat that we just approved. So the deed restrictions would basically very highly restrict Mr. Dudley as to what he could do down in that portion of this property. So this hopefully would appease concerns over, outside storage, which tends to be an issue sometimes with this type of zoning. The boats and RV storage, currently I believe there's a building out front here which pretty much blocks the boats and RVs back there. Mr. Dudley would be required to do an engineering site plan and bring the property into compliance. That is part of his requirements. Looking at this other map here, the property is approximately right here, part of this light industrial, which you can see there's some heavy industrial across the way, some more heavy industrial over here, across the way over here, warehouse zoning over here, some warehouse zoning down here, more heavy industrial down here. So the property, there is some other warehouse zoning and heavy industrial zoning, which is actually more heavier zoning than warehouse, that does surround the area. Staff does recommend approval of this zoning. I'm here to answer any questions.
Bill, question? Anything? James already shook his head no. Anything? Any questions?
Mary, you mentioned the requirement of an engineering plan being submitted. Is there a deadline for that, or has that already been submitted?
That has not been submitted yet, but we do have timelines for him to do certain things.
So that all comes with different deadlines and dates to
Correct.
implement the changes. Okay.
Correct. And if that's not done, then we go with other means.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything, Alvin? No. Okay, I have a question, Mary.
Yeah.
Okay, it appears to me there's a little more to this than meets the eye, I'm guessing. So I was a little bit confused from reading what was in the packet here. What really is the impetus behind this zoning change with everything?
Well, to bring the property into compliance. So
right now, the deed restrictions are in place along with the light industrial, you're saying, in order to make sure that they can only use 10%? No. Or are the
Right.
deed restrictions coming with the warehouse zoning?
No. He's already filed deed restrictions on the property.
Okay.
We had some concerns over his mulching, landscaping operations, and storage of the outside mulch.
Okay.
And so the deed restrictions have basically taken care of those issues. The warehouse zoning, basically to bring the use that's already in there, basically the RV and boat storage, which has been there for a number of years.
Is this the RV and boat storage that is out there with the actual buildings where people can
Basically.
store them inside or the outside, either one? Is this the same?
No,
lot?
this one is all outside. I
Okay.
believe.
So at this point, I'm still confused as to how, as light industrial, how are they out of compliance with the light industrial zoning? Because of the mulch storage?
Right. The mulch storage is part of it, and and part of the other issue is light industrial limits your outside storage to 10% of the lot. The warehouse zoning allows him a little bit more flexibility because he's got a large piece of property, allows him to use the property for more boat and RV storage, which is less of an, I guess, an eyesore than the mulch storage has been in the past.
Okay. I'm still not getting this, sorry. So if we approve warehouse and they have deed restrictions for 10%, what's the difference between that and the light industrial that's there right now? Because,
It's limiting his outside storage of his mulch.
okay. So right
Storage
now,
of mulch and wood chips, firewood, stone, dirt, so that he can expand on these other properties. We've been working with him really hard for the last couple of years to clean up that site.
so what I'm trying to figure out is, does the change to warehouse zoning help to continue to clean up the site?
Yes, it does.
And how does it do that? If the warehouse allows you more flexibility as to what you can store, which to me sounds like you can store even more.
No, because the deed restrictions limit what he can do. Despite what your zoning is, your deed restrictions are more limiting to you.
So we're
The
deed
ware-
restricting back from warehouse, but not necessarily as far down as light industrial. Is that what you're telling me?
Right.
It's somewhere between.
Right. This would allow him to do all his boat and RV storage, but would not let him use more than 10% of the lot, or 1.2 acres, to do his mulch storage,
Okay,
which is more the issue that we have.
okay. And when you have outside storage like that, even on the warehouse, is there anything in the ordinance about any type of screening for it?
Yes, and that would take place with his site plan.
Okay, so they would be required to have screening around these storage areas.
Yes, sir.
Are they required to do that under light industrial? If-
Yes.
Okay. Is it there right now?
It's partially screened,
Okay.
but not fully in compliance.
So once we do this warehouse change, then they would have to submit a site plan, and it would have to include the screening and restrict the amount of mulch and other things, but allow them to continue to do the boats.
Yes. So
Okay.
we are trying very hard to work this, to get this into compliance.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have. Anyone else? Okay. Thanks, Mary. Okay, at this time, I will open the public hearing on item 4A. Anyone wishing to speak in reference to item 4A can do so at this time, and I believe we have a sign-in sheet and a pen for anyone wanting to speak. Yes, sir, just come up and sign in. Come up and sign in, let us know your name and where you live, and
My name is Herman Burke. I'm My property is right next to there, where this supposed to go in the warehouse. We are in a floodplain, and where they propose to put a warehouse in is also in the floodplain. This is south of us. And when there will be some buildup, we're going to be flooded. So whenever everything is built according to the floodplain, we sure don't have anything against it. But the way it looks, in order to do that to codes, they have to build it up. And when that is done, the water is not going to go where it's natural went for all these years, the few times we had a flood, and we're going to be more in the danger to be flooded. So that's my concern about it.
Do you know on this map right here where you're located relative to them?
Yeah. We are right here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry. We are right,
Mobile home park? Okay.
right here, that mobile home park.
Okay.
We had the problem with the mulch and with that, because of fire hazard. They came to close. They're building up since quite a while in the back. And the city knows about it. But that's only my concern, our concern, that when that land is built up, that we're going to be flooded more than before. And that's actually all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in regard to item 4A?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Steve Holmeyer. I'm the civil engineer on this particular project. The one thing I would like to clarify with regard to the exhibit that Mary was pointing to, this actual project, or the limits, would be this lot here, the first LI lot that would be beyond the two smaller lots, excuse me, rather than this one. This is the most easterly lot of Mr. Dudley's. But generally speaking, the rest of the exhibit is correct, and the exhibits that we provided to you that are in your packets accurately reflect that. With regard to what Mary has talked about, there were several items that Mr. Dudley and the city came to an agreement on back in April of this year. That agreement came before council and was approved, and that's kind of the impetus for what we're doing this evening. We have submitted the plat to break these properties up and get them platted. We're going through the zoning process now to get the warehouse zoning to allow the use of the RV storage and the boat storage. The next step that we'll be doing will be coming in with regard to the engineering site plans, and subsequently, as part of that, we'll be doing the flood studies. In order to address the gentleman's concern that was here before me, in order for us to do any field work, we will be looking at any kind of balance necessary to maintain the floodplain in accordance with FEMA and city standards. So that concern should be addressed as we continue to proceed forward with this particular project. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Holmeyer? Nothing? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? I'll wait for Steve to sign in here. Anyone else wishing to speak in regard to item 4A? If not, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close public hearing.
Motion from James to close the public hearing on item 4A.
Second.
Second from Alvin. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Public hearing is closed. Do we have any final comments on this?
Well, I'd heard one concern about the flooding or the water drainage, but I think that was addressed, I guess, or will be in the site plan.
Anybody else? Any comments?
Only one other question. I'd like to ask staff if they, in fact, have taken into consideration of any flooding potential and any hazards that could be brought about by this? And is staff satisfied with what they have seen?
And I'll add my comment into Jim's, because I was going to comment on the fact that it seems to me that by actually going through the zoning and being forced to do a site plan, that I would assume basically the owner right now can really do kind of whatever they want out there, which would probably cause more flooding issues than if they're required to go through the process to actually submit an official site plan, which means they have to meet city and FEMA codes with regard to the floodplain. So we're probably we're probably better off having this zone change so that this comes under some sort of guidelines as to cleaning it up and having it drain better and look better and be screened and all those. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I was basically what you've said is correct. We've been working with Mr. Dudley for a couple of years, and besides the zoning issues that we've had out there, there's been issues with the storage of mulch and some fill that's been placed out there that wasn't put in according to code. And this whole exercise in replatting and rezoning and then ultimately the engineering site plan is a mechanism that we're going to use to address all these issues with regard to the illegal fill and the storage of mulch so that we can eventually get this property in compliance with our floodplain ordinance. As Mr. Holmeyer indicated, part of that will be doing the appropriate flood studies to make sure that whatever they do with the fill or any kind of storage or buildings back in that floodplain area aren't going to create any adverse conditions to the neighboring properties.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, Jim. Thanks, David. Appreciate it. Any further questions or comments on this item, or do I have a motion to recommend approval or denial? Motion from anyone, either way?
I'll make the motion.
Motion to approve. We have a motion from Bill to approve the zoning change, to recommend approval to City Council, the zoning change. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Jim. This will be to recommend approval of the zoning change to the City Council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Item 4A passes. Item 4B is consideration of a zone change request from agricultural open to light industrial on 1.99 acres located located on the west side of Holford's Prairie Road on West Hill Lane, further identified as P. Higgins Survey, Abstract 525, Tracts 25. The request is being made by Jose Torres, the property owner. This is case number PZ 201101013.
Excuse me. Oops. The property in question is located right here. Holford's Prairie basically is one of the city limit lines. The other city limit lines runs on the southern edge of this property. If we look at this property and surrounding properties, we'll see that there's a lot of either light industrial or agricultural open spaces. Properties right here on this picture. In addition, we've got some specific use and some heavy industrial. Excuse me. According to the East Louisville plan, this part of this area is deemed to be for multifamily use. However, that plan is somewhat outdated. Other exemptions to the plan have occurred with, the specific use zoning, the heavy industrial zoning. So, excuse me. A lot of the assumptions based for the East Louisville plan had some assumptions like Carrollton Parkway would be a 6-lane divided parkway, which has happened, but it kind of ends back down here. The portion that goes through Louisville So this is the portion that ends in Carrollton, right here at 121. This portion here is really not happening at this time. It's supposed to connect on the Louisville side. It's going to end up being part of Windhaven Parkway and go down and connect with corporate at some point. On the Louisville side, the corporate area basically goes by the landfill. There's a lot of, bridges that would have to be built to make that road. And so staff, that's one issue, is why items haven't occurred according to the plan. The other part is there's a mobile home park right here. The plan also assumes that there'd be an amortization schedule for the mobile home park, basically to, over a certain period of time, it would go away. And this staff does not see that happening in the near future either. This property is contiguous with other light industrial tracts. Some of these have been rezoned light industrial in the last few years. It is staff's opinion we put consider on this application for the fact that the plan currently doesn't call for it, but staff does realize that the plan isn't exactly going into force in this area. And so that is why staff has put considered on the application. Mr. Torres essentially is looking to locate his drywall business at this site. So he would like to build a new building, which essentially would house his staff and all his equipment basically indoors. This is the first step in the process for him. If approved, he would have to go through the platting process and then through the engineering site plan process, which would bring the property into compliance in terms of all the landscaping, fire codes, paving, drainage, so on and so forth. Do you have any questions?
Questions for Mary? Anybody?
No.
Okay. At this time, I'll open the public hearing for item 4B. Anyone wishing to speak in reference to item 4B can do so now. Don't believe we have anyone for 4B. Do we have a motion to close the public hearing on 4B?
Make a motion to close public hearing?
Second. Motion from Jim, second from Alvin to close the public hearing on item 4B. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Public hearing is closed. Any other discussion on this with the staff? On this request out in this area that's obviously changing plans a little bit from what we had originally foreseen as the city. Any concerns with that, or are we good?
Motion to recommend approval.
Motion from James to recommend approval of item 4B.
Second.
Second by Jim. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries on item 4B. Item 5 is reports. Mary, anything? No reports. Item 6 is adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Motion from Jim. Second from Alvin to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Meeting adjourned.